This is the A-Xii podcast, episode 3. Bailey,
we are back at it, bright and early today.
Bright and early. What time is it in the Czech Republic right now?
What, 5 p.m. or something like that? I'm not sure.
9 hours ahead. We've got a pretty amazing guest today. Tobi Stolz-Zwilling from Warhorse Studios. Talk a little bit about what's going on here, Bay.
Yeah, so I've recently become obsessed with their video game studio, their new release, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It seems to really be taking kind of a pop culture hold right now. So we're just excited to talk to Tobi, who is the PR manager over at Warhorse. So yeah, he's over in the Czech Republic, like you said, 9 hours ahead of us. And we're super excited to kind of chat about the process, the game. And
what we'll do is to kind of get this rolling. Take a peek here real quick at a trailer. Here we go.
Oh, God. I was a peasant.
There it is. Is that blasting your ears this time, Bailey? Is it okay?
Nope, sounds way better this time.
I'm going to let Tobi in mid-roll. Tobi?
What's up, guys?
Hey, how are you, brother?
Hey,
We're
Tobi.
watching the trailer right now, so bear with us for about a minute and a half. With, looks like Chinese subtitles going on there.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, right.
Tobi, it's a global audience.
Expand the audience.
I only hope I live long enough to avenge the ones I lost.
I think Henry's on the old hero's journey now, Bailey. I think the hero's journey has begun for Henry.
Yeah. He's on an adventure.
I think the learning to fight phase is over, and now it's global domination for Henry, our boy here.
Absolutely. I mean, he was fighting bandits and low-level lords for most of the time in KCD1, or bandits or whatever, and now he's on the big stage.
Yep,
Armies and kings and all.
Nobles and kings,
so,
yes.
Big boy Henry. I call him, I sometimes say that he was, in KCD1, he was the champion of the Sunday League, and now he's in the Major League.
You know what? You
That's what it feels like.
You stole one of my questions, because doing the homework, that was my favorite thing you said as far as the evolution of how this is built, the patience it takes to be sort of the agonizing journey to the Premier League is sort of it's a really good sort of comparison. I'm into it, and so I'm gonna stop this little screen share here, get out of there, and now it's just us,
Guys,
Tobi.
Yeah, I didn't take headphones because we have this kind of soundproof box here, so this should be
very cool.
Better than...
You sound perfect.
Thank you.
Because you can always kind of tell immediately, it sounds great. Amazing to meet you. The dynamics of this, I think I told you in the emails, I own a media company in Santa Cruz, California. We've got a really big magazine. We're venturing into the podcast space, kind of support with our weekly newsletter, the magazine. We are in sort of the Silicon Valley. There's a hub here of people that nerd out on what you do. Bailey's my son. He's the gamer. I am an Atari 2600, Nintendo.
My
and
first
now a
console,
Switch guy.
Atari 2600.
Awesome.
There we go.
I didn't own it myself, but my cousin did. So, and he was always lecturing me about not wrecking his joysticks there.
Yeah, you did right.
Well, 1977. Yeah, 1977, the year it came out. We got it the day it came out. In my life, I was only 9 years old at that time, but it was the beginning of the fundamental change in my life, which was, Saturdays were eat breakfast, go out and play, and then mom would ring the bell and we'd come in, eat, and go to sleep. And that Atari 2600 came out, and we had to make a business decision. And the business decision was, I feel like we should do this all day. And my friends are like, we still should play a little bit. But it was the beginning of that occupation of our time going into another world. There's no doubt about it. Kingdom Come is amazing to me, because when we played Atari, if it was Indiana Jones, I saw the 8-bit like your game, but I had to translate it in my head. So when we played Indiana Jones, I was playing Harrison Ford. I was playing the movie, but we had to do a lot of work in our brain. Smart guys like you and Warhorse and Deliverance, we don't have to do that anymore. We can just play the game.
I had a situation like that with the Super Nintendo. So the first console or thing I ever owned was the OG Game Boy. I had a green one, so special already. But that was the first console that I personally owned. Yeah, let's call it console. But then when the Super Nintendo rolled out, for me it was like in the early 90s. Like when was it, like 92 or something like that? When I got the Super Nintendo in 93, somewhere there. This was for me absolutely like a mind blowing thing. It shaped my huge parts of my childhood. I tried to go or follow a professional sports career, which I started when I was like not the professional one, but I started playing a very popular sport especially in Germany, which is called handball, which is pretty much basketball, but instead of throwing into the basket, you like throw it on field goals. And I started doing that with 4, and when the Super Nintendo came out, I was 4, 5, somewhere there when I got it. I mean, and for me, it was really like going to school, coming home from school, playing Super Nintendo, then going to handball training, coming back from handball training, playing Super Nintendo again. And on the weekends, it was like either going into the woods, which we had a huge forest outside the house, and it was either we played there, Cowboys and Indiana, whatever, or we played the Super Nintendo together. And I have pictures from my childhood where like children's birthday party was cake, and everyone was sitting around the Super Nintendo where looking at I had a tiny CRT monitor. When I was a kid, for me it was like a world that's sucking me in, and Super Mario World and everything was there. But today the television is like really as big as my chest.
Yeah,
right. Not even. It was smaller than that. It's really just a tiny cube TV, and just playing it. I still have it, the same TV from my childhood, and I still have that original Super Nintendo from my childhood. I put them together, and it's like, how could I play that? Well,
Bailey, do you relate to that? Because you went through different because Bailey's my son. We've had a lot of money, we've had no money, and the screens dictate how we're doing in our life. And so he's played on some. He's definitely played on some screens that are small. But
yeah, I remember. For a long time. Do you remember that little like kitchen TV we had? That's tiny white one with the screen like that big. I remember playing on that just with the old RGB connections. Video games for me are funny. I feel like I was playing video games before I had kind of real world consciousness. My earliest memories involve Taylor's Game Boy. Taylor's my sister, or going to grandma's and playing her PlayStation 2, driving backwards on a NASCAR track or something like that. And it never stops for me. I video games have and always will be. I can't imagine that changing. Just being far and away my number one hobby.
I can remember with my cousin. I can't remember what kind of console he had, but he had one of the original Contra games. But we didn't know. Neither of us spoke English by that time, and we didn't know that the game was called Contra, and we just called it A-Xii, and that's a word in Czech which means action, and it's something like action movie. So we called it, hey, let's play action movie. Yeah. Okay, an action movie was us playing Contra together.
I love it.
Oh, awesome.
But Tobi, let's stay on there a little bit, because I did do on my homework, and it seems like it always gets to Deliverance. It always gets to kind of the point. But I think I'd like to linger for a couple minutes there on that little handball kid, the kid that liked the handhelds, and because you're not just Kingdom Come Deliverance. You were a human on the planet before the Kickstarter campaign and all that. But I think I'm always just interested in the human element of it. Let's kind of linger there and then talk about like high school and your kind of growth into it.
Yeah, well, so I'm born and raised in Germany. I have a German dad and a Czech mom, so I was always kind of sitting in between chairs. When I was a kid, my Czech family and everyone always asked me, that's a question that follows me kind of like the entire life, are you Czech or are you German? I don't know why, but everyone wanted to know this all the time. How do I feel more? And I was like, I don't know. Whenever I was in Germany, I felt more like a Czech, and now that I'm living in Czech Republic for 10 years or whatever, then I'm always like saying, yeah, I'm German, but living here in Czech. So it's always like vice versa in a way. But I always felt a huge like desire to my mother's side, which is the Czech side. So I don't have any siblings, but my cousin was a Czech guy. So I saw in him something like a brother. Whenever there was a school holiday, we traveled over to the Czech Republic. But I was born in 89, and in the early 90s, the Iron Curtain fell and everything, and Czech Republic became like a regular country like every other country. However, it was still a bit behind. That's not what I mean, but the Super Nintendo or something never really came to the Czech Republic, because it was in a time where they had different problems than that. So I was always bringing it from Germany, and I was the kid from Germany who brought the Super Nintendo, and then all the kids from the States came over and watching it together with us. I studied journalism in Germany. My plan was always I was pursuing that sports career, and my plan B was, hey, if you do that, have something studied at least on a bachelor level, so that if something happens, you have something in your pocket. Sport journalism, but I had to end my career, and I managed to get into into the all-star teams and so on, and it seemed like I could get somewhere and got a contract and whatnot. But I never grew out of the talent stage. So I got super injured. My left, I have 4 surgeries on my left knee. So with 22, I had to stop my career harshly.
Wow.
But by the time I had my bachelor, I just finished my bachelor, and I was like, okay, what now? I will be clever. I will do studying in a foreign country, and foreign country for me was Czech Republic, because I had a place to go. I knew the language, and I thought I will be super smart, and I will go to the Czech Republic, do my master's degree there, and then come back to Germany. However, I moved to Prague, which none of my family is even close. So 200 or 300 miles east was my grandma, and 300 or 200 miles west was my mom. So there was no one. And for the first time with 22 or so, I was living alone. I had no one to go to. I was introduced to Czech beer, Czech food, and Czech women, and I never returned back to Germany. So my plan kind of failed. I did finish that master degree. I did work as a journalist for quite a while. The problem, though, is while I speak and read and talk fluently Czech, I am absolutely not able to write Czech, which is a real problem. So if you are speaking another language, like French or whatever, I'm writing it the way I hear it, which is almost always wrong, right? Always. So when I'm right now the press speaker, PR manager here at Warhorse Studios, which is funny because when I write Czech emails to someone, they're like, who the heck are you? Like, why am I talking to like a 5-year-old or something? It's like, the good thing is, though, that Warhorse video games generally are international, so it really doesn't matter so much that I don't write Czech, because, I don't have to write Czech press releases. But, and also, I'm living here in Czech Republic since 2012, so 13 years, and I'm working at Warhorse Studios since 2014, so 11 years. So the good thing is, at least in the Czech gaming world, everyone knows me, Tobi from Warhorse. So they're like, yeah, it's this idiot, so that's fine.
He doesn't have to write, yeah.
So as I said, I was
maybe the writing, Tobi, maybe that answers the age-old question: are you German or are you Czech? Maybe we know the answer.
Who knows? I still have German papers because there's no reason to have Czech ones, because here in Europe it really doesn't matter which of the European country passports you have. Well, the German is currently a little bit better because I don't need a visa in China. But
there you go.
But so I was working here for some media outlets, and it worked quite a while, because technically I knew what I was supposed to do. But when I had to write down the article, it was crappy because someone had to change it or correct it for me. So that was not working very well. For a while, I was working for the German German television correspondent here in Prague. That was great, but they didn't want to give me a full-time job. So what happened is that I ran out of money, and I was like, okay, Mom, seems like I'm coming back. And it was I don't know, in January 2014 or so, right? It was okay, I need to find out what I'm going to do. Let's open up let's check some jobs or something. And by that time, maybe February 2014, I saw, I was always a fan about video games. I always played video games. Since I can remember, I always played video games. I was seeing a German video game show that was talking about the hot new games, and they were talking about this one medieval thing that right now just entered the or just successfully ended the Kickstarter campaign.
Oh,
and
right
it's
on.
this medieval thing, and we don't know what it is. And there's this dude, Daniel Vavra, and he did the Mafia series before, and now he's working on this project. I was like, So a week later, I was coming home from the gym or something, and went into the elevator of my apartment building, and there was this chubby bearded dude coming to the elevator, running in there like, wait. He stepped in and was like, hey, my name is Dan. Are you living here? It's like, yeah, sure, I'm living on the top floor. And he said, oh, okay, cool. I was looking at him like, the heck? Where did I see this dude? Like, eh? So I went up to my apartment and said, Daniel Vavra, who the heck is that? I Googled his name. I was like, okay, that's the dude I saw last week on this gaming show, and the mafia dude, and he's living one apartment below me. It's like, okay, let's check the homepage. And they were looking like for programmers and all the technical stuff, which I'm absolutely, I'm glad that I can turn on a computer, but that's about it, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm good in talking and writing in English and German. But the talking, as you can see, it's like that's where I'm at home, right? So I said, shoot, they're not looking for anything like me. So it's like, okay. It boiled down a little bit, but like half a month later or a month later or so, it's just like, you know what? Screw it. I just check it out of curiosity, right? And they were looking for a community manager, background in media. I was like, there you go. That's my time.
There it is.
And it was like, that's not exactly what I want to do, but that's my like let's get the foot in the door kind of. So exactly. I was like Thursday evening, maybe 9 p.m., 10 p.m., something like that. And I was like, okay, that's it. I printed quickly my CV, put on some clothes, went down the stairs, knocked on his door, and his wife came out. It's like, hey, what do you want? It's like, hey, sorry, is Daniel at home? It's like, yeah, sure, give me a second. And Daniel came, I kid you not, in his undies and a shirt, he came out. I was like, hey, what's up? It's like, I know who you are. I love what you do. Here's my CV. And he looked at it like, oh, community manager. It's shitty paid. I said, no worries. I'm a journalist, freelance journalist. I'm used to being shitty paid. And a month later, I started in May 2014. Then I started at Warhorse Studios as the community manager. Did that for exactly 1 week. And then they said, hey, you know what? PR and you can do bigger and better. And officially, I was then promoted in 1 year later, 2015, to PR manager. And I do that since then. So I'm in the team for 11 years. And this is how I got in the gaming industry.
That's an amazing story.
I love those kind of stories. I love the connectivity there because I think, your platform in this game is narrative. It is world building. And the reality is we're all world building. We're all, you replace the Forge with handball and you replace some things, and Henry is you, Henry is me, you can just put the different things in there. So I think that's always a nice basis, because all the interviews and the printed articles I saw, a lot of times I don't think we give enough space for the human side of it. Like, how did this human get to this space? Bailey, I know, Bailey, you're probably geeking out right now because he's his world is this, not necessarily this game, but it is gaming. Did you have some teed up for him, Bailey?
My world has been this game since I've gotten it, 100%. Absolutely. I've been so stoked to talk to you ever since we put this together, and I cannot put the game down. I wanted so badly to try to roll credits on it before we got to this conversation. I'm about 80 hours in, and I still got a long way to go. I can't stop doing tournaments in Gutenberg right now, so I've got more things to worry about.
You know what's funny? When we worked on, when we were thinking about, well, we always knew that we want to do a sequel because the first game ended on a cliffhanger, so it made absolutely sense. Then we put our heads together and said, you know what, we can't do the game. We shouldn't develop the game for too long. KCD 1 was announced in 2014 and released in 2018, 4 years. And we said, too long. We should be quicker than that.
Wow.
Well, didn't work out. So it took us 6 years, actually, from 2019 to 25, almost 6 years. But the idea was, hey, we do, you know what, we take KCD 1 and add 25% everywhere, and this will be enough. And we will put more focus on the, on making sure that because, in KCD 1, the people were like, some loved the story, some disliked the story, some loved the combat, some disliked. So the feedback was like all over the place. We had 10 out of 10s, we had 5 out of 10s. Like, it was really hard to pinpoint what they liked and did not like. However, the only thing that everyone agreed on was that it was a buggy mess on release. So we said, okay, this is something where we know what to do. We have to put much more effort into, or less effort into doing like ridiculously lot amount of stuff into the game, and more effort on the making sure that it runs well. Now, the plus 25% didn't work out at all. So I think everywhere because everyone was like, I guess every studio will tell you that, but this is like a super creative place here, and the people like really, when we have a super flat structure, so everyone can raise their voice and say, I hate that feature and we should absolutely redo it because something. There's no one who's like, of course there's owners of the quest, and then they then have to defend their ideas or why they're doing stuff, but everyone can really give feedback, which then leads to the fact that, or the problem that the processes are longer. However, the results are better because then, everyone has an impact and everyone buys in and everyone says, yes, agree, this is our game kind of thing. So instead of plus 25%, we ridiculously added everything everywhere, like plus 100%, unfortunately. So the game
absolutely.
is longer, there's more characters, more quests, more features, more everything. However, we still, and that's the reason why we postponed the game we planned to like October, November 24, that we really wanted hard to release it by that time. Or you said, you know what, we have to make sure that the game runs as smooth as possible. So we decided, hey, let's go for February. That's the next possible date. The good thing is, because of that, us postponing the game, we had this eureka moment in the programming department that came extremely late, like in October-ish, September, October came really late, like the possibility of having 60 frames per second on console, which is something that we absolutely did not count with. It just happened magically. No one knows how it happened. Black magic rituals, they burnt, I don't know, KCD1, and the demons flew out, and then we said, okay, there is a chance to make this run smooth on all platforms, including the Xbox Series S, and the optimizations that goes into the weakest platform is automatically benefiting, at least in our case, benefiting all the other platforms as well. So now we have the ridiculous situation where we have 60 frames on consoles, and if you have a medium good gaming PC, 120 frames on PC if you wish, right? So it's like, it's crazy what happened. And it was these 2-3 months that made sure that we can get to that situation.
That's incredible, right at the finish line. And I mean, to be able to run smoothly like that makes all the difference, and especially in kind of the general uninformed public acceptance of the game. So many people won't turn on a game if it doesn't have those specs for them. So what an incredible find right at the end. That's amazing.
Yeah, and if we absolutely could have released in October, November, we were ready, which then also shows the fact that we were sending out the review code a month before release. We were sending it out in January 2nd, so all the media in the world that were kind of in this review phase had the chance to really play through the game and give us like a super educated feedback. The feedback from all of those journalists were like, what? 4 weeks? Like, never happened before. I was like,
but no way.
I mean, we are kind of finished, and we feel like, I mean, of course there's patches and everything coming, but we are right now at a stage where we can give you the game and you can try it yourself. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. We were actually so, on one hand, there was, of course, the other games releasing in February, but the game, because it was in such a good state, we said, you know what, hey, we can postpone it, even like move it forward to be like the 1st in February, because the game is ready and there's really nothing we wait for. It's just sitting on a finished product in a way. So it's like, hey, let's do it. People will like it. People will be happy. We can be 1st in February, and at the end, everything was really, luckily, knocking on wood, turned out really, really well.
Yeah, no, it's been nothing but a polished experience from what I've played, which is 75 hours of the game so far. So I've seen a lot of it.
It's a huge ass open world RPG. So of course there's glitches and funny stuff happening here and there. But what we really focused on a lot and tried really hard is that there's nothing that really annoys you. And if there's a game breaking stuff or something that is too funny, then there's usually always a way how you can still finish the game. But still, today I'm going to stream in about 2 hours, 1.5 hours with a colleague of mine on our Warhorse Studios Twitch channel if you want to watch, and we will introduce what's coming next, which is the DLCs. But we will show today we will show some free LCs that are for free. But we are talking about the next patch that is coming in March, and that contains 4 months of work or so, for 5 months of work. So what I wanted to say with that is that there's still a lot of work on the game, and we are trying really hard to make a good running game even better.
Super impressive, and it kind of leads into something I want to talk about. From your perspective, how is this even possible? You look at AAA game development across the whole industry, and they have their budget is multiples more than what you guys spent to make this. They've got, what do you have, like 200 something employees, I think I saw. Is that still correct? Yeah. So other AAA studios have massive teams compared to that, massive budget compared to that, and then they put out a product that doesn't work and isn't fun. How can you, from your perspective, how do you guys even make this happen?
I would want to say great planning, but I would lie because our planning is crap, and we thought we will be much faster and released 6 years after.
Right.
Happens, right? But I don't know, being effective, being open-minded, we are trying to be, we generally try this community first approach. So we are working on the game that we as a developer like, and we are identify with. That's what I meant earlier, where everyone can say, hey, I hate that feature, we should redo it. When we are doing this constant like gameplay testing here in the studio, they are kind of like, you don't have to do them, but you can, and that give you feedback. And this is happening very often, honestly. So it's good to get that. We are trying to get community feedback. So we gather friends, we put friends and family together and gave them like 100 of them, like moms and dads and brothers and sisters, who wants to like test the game beforehand and invest like 50 hours or so. So we did that several times. I think I can't tell you what the other studios are doing different. I don't want to say wrong, but different. I can tell you that we are trying to be just very effective with what we have. And of course, one needs to be also realistic here. Producing in Czech Republic is cheaper than producing in Germany or in the United States. It's just a fact that office building, while still Czech Republic is the most Western of all Central or Eastern countries here, still prices are high, but compared to the United States or Germany, it's a joke. So it's easier to do that here, I guess, generally. And we don't have any like unnecessary, we don't have 1,000 agencies that we are paying to tell us what's good or not. We're not ticking any boxes like, hey, we have to do this marketing thing. You, agency XY, tell us what we should add or not add, or car parks or whatever. We just try to be humble developers working on their stuff. And the only people who are actually having a saying in what goes into the game or goes not into the game is us plus the community. And we are of course not blind. So we were checking what the people were like saying about KCD1 and which mods were downloaded most and what they disliked and whatnot, and according to that we tried to balance out what we should and should not do. But yeah, there's a number floating out in the internet about the cost of KCD2. I don't know it precisely, the cost, of course, but I can tell you that the number is absolutely not far from probably not far from the real price. So like a mid double-digit million thing.
Yeah, that's what I saw there as well.
Tobi, I had one question. Like it reminds me a little bit of even like our little media company here in the scope of larger media companies. Maybe the reality is creating the first game in the closet of a Kickstarter campaign created some fundamentals that are real. Maybe the reality of not having an unlimited budget with an idea you think of these larger companies, an idea comes up, and it's almost like a movie studio. It's like, whatever you need, I'll give you the budget, we'll put everything behind it. And there's some that can be kind of a loose process of building a model. Whereas with, I'm sure every single pound, every single dollar in that first one was accounted for,
absolutely.
Needed, and maybe created some good business principles for your company that wouldn't have existed if this idea was launched with somewhere else. Possibly. Is that a thought?
I think you are on a good lead here. I think, of course, with Kickstarter, we had no marketing budget, almost no marketing. The marketing of Kickstarter of KCD1 was me with a backpack and the laptop. So a plane ticket, a hotel room, and a gaming laptop that had to be updated or upgraded once in a time. That was the marketing budget for KCD1. So when, for instance, I can remember an E3 in Los Angeles, which is in itself already super expensive, but because United States. But I was like, hey, we had this DLC for KCD1, and our publisher back in the time said, yeah, well, we have no floor space, it's too expensive, and we don't publish we don't do this with the DLCs and whatnot. And I said, I hate no's, and I don't accept no's usually. So I was talking to my CEO and say, listen, Martin, what if you give me this penthouse apartment, right? Like instead of a hotel room, we get this penthouse apartment, which is right across E3, which is like super cool and everything. I will sleep there, of course, but in the living room or whatever, we will do the presentation. So we will not be on the show floor, where we will be across the street, and because
We'll be
KCD was
pulling
already
people
out
over.
there, and you know, as you can see, I'm talking a lot, and I'm really able to do quite a, like, would say that I'm able to get some friends together. So I was like calling or writing the journalists, hey, listen, so we are not on E3 directly, but we are right across the street, and I have imported Czech beer, and I have homemade cookies which Jude was making and everything, and this will be super cozy, feel good presentation and everything. And
Amazing.
They came over, they sat there, and I did my job, and at the end we had an E3 presence in a way. So it's just we try to be creative and effective and bend the rules sometimes here and there, and just not accepting a no. Sometimes I have to, but what if is like always my answer. And I don't know. It's just yeah. And
No, I think that's
what you said, Brian, before. KSD1 was really super effective price. It was really low double-digit million price. Maybe, yeah. So it was really, but when I started at Warhorse in 2014, we were like 35 people or so, 40. The release of KCD1 was with 110 people. So of course the costs grew, but in the end we had a number, and we could say, hey, Mr. Publisher or owner, mother company in that time, this is the price of KCD1. And of course, when they're doing their calculations, it's like, okay, this means if this is the price of KCD1, then this is the price, should be the price of KCD2. It's not like we didn't had a blanco check or something like that. It was not like, hey, now unlimited funds, go crazy. No, we had to talk about all extra funds. We had to talk about, we want to postpone the game. We had to tell them why we think it's a good thing, what it will cost extra, and so on. So yeah, we had to, of course, be very mindful of what we are doing. There was never the situation where we just could like freely shoot and do whatever we want. So I think we pride ourselves here in the studio, and especially our CEO, that we are trying very hard to be cost effective and just generally effective in what we are doing. We are doing pretty much everything by ourselves. We are not outsourcing anything, only really just tiny support stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example of what I see from the outside in of what kind of separates this game and your studio from the rest of the industry. As video games are in such a weird place right now, where a lot of the big hitters are way more of a product than they are a passion project.
Yeah.
I could just see it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you see that right away, very often, unfortunately.
That's exactly it. It's becoming the norm. It's way more, people look at it more as a business than an art. And it started out as an art, obviously, and there's so much of that still exists today, but you've got to seek it out more than it falling in front of you like it used to. And that's just what I see from, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I said, I've always looked at it that way, and it's probably my fault that you like it this way, but there's two circumstances that happen when you're playing a game. And a lot of times you'll pick up, your stick and you'll start playing, and you'll be like, I always give a restaurant comparison. That was a really good, perfectly executed steak. And sometimes you go to another restaurant, you're like, this person loves cooking. And that's
right. That's exactly
truly what goes on in the world of, like, especially like nonlinear games like this, where there's so much room for your path. A conversation you have sets you on a different, kind of, it's that real world experience. And sometimes that can be a little bit wonky. It can be a little bit campy and sort of contrived. Bailey just introduced me to this game. I got to be honest, my whole role in this thing is mostly the sports, and our podcast, we talk about sports, new movies, which I'm, and I still play.
Big NHL fan here.
Right. Hey, there you go. And I was just saying, you could have been an Olympic handballer.
Yes.
If you stuck with it, you could have. But I think I'm vibing with what Bailey's saying right now, is that, if you play games long enough, you sometimes can kind of sense it out a little bit in it. Like, there's a curation, and not that all designers don't love what they do, but it doesn't always come off that way. When you get served it. So, no, I think it's,
but I would like to jump in there at just one point. I strongly believe that all the developers, or most of them that are working on a video game, that they usually love what they're working on. I think the problem is much higher than the ground level of the people. It's just, I think all the cooks here, or all the chefs here, are really proud of their part they're working.
Yeah.
I think, as I said, I think the problem is somewhere else, or a little bit higher, where you have to, where you are this, I'm a PR guy, so I'm trying to come up with great ideas, with huge things, with events and whatnot. And when I get the answer, or when I get a answer that contains return of investment, then I start to hate that. I hate that.
Right.
These three words really and I think and I don't blame those big companies, because they have the investors, and there's stocks and everything, and they can't just go crazy. They have to look back on numbers and sheets hey, this worked, so we tried this again, but that's a safe space, and I don't know what. But I would try to find the problem somewhere there above, because I really don't think that regular Joe that is working on this product says, I want to do just the bare minimum and then go home and don't care about it. I think when you have those negative reviews and those negative talks about the studios and whatnot, I think those people on the ground level, they are hit hardest there, because they're I wish I could do more, but they just don't want it, and I can't, and I should do this, and they don't let me do more. And we try really hard here at the studio to be very transparent and show more faces, not just the creative director saying, hi, my name is Daniel, and today I'm showing no, we are trying really hey, this is Daniel, this is Tobi, this is Prokop, this is Martin. And then in all the interviews, I always often try to bring someone else, and there's you see many people behind the studio. In the streams, it's just now me and another developer, but because we vibe very well and people seem to like it. But generally, we're trying to be this is what we work on, this is what we're doing, the patch is coming today. Well, I will say the patch is coming in March, this is going to be in there. We thank you for your feedback, we looked it up, this is the highlights which you might be looking for, and blah, blah, blah. So it's a more, this community first thing has its roots or thing in the Kickstarter era, right? Without the people, we would never be here. So we are trying to stick to that, while of course also the people have to understand that the bigger the company gets and the more money and whatnot is involved, then you can't do. I sometimes say back in the days we were punks, now we are still punks, but more organized punks than before. So yeah, it's
dangerous combination.
We want to stay true.
We're punks with the plan is what with the plan. Bailey, I've got a couple deep weeds, and then we'll kind of keep them on time here a little bit. But did you have anything else jumping right now? But I've got the main question I've got, and I'll kind of kick it out of the way, is Bailey introduced me to this. I've been playing, and for me, 56 years old, kind of the things I know, I kind of I'm finding. Remember, I'm still working my way through. One is combat's hard. For me, it's and I even kind of went on YouTube and I realized, oh, combat's intentionally hard, as far as the decision that you made, at least in the first one, was to basically, the world building, is you have to invest your time and patience in combat, it seems like.
Yeah. So, so you said you are playing still KCD1, right? Start playing KCD2. So
that's what I told him.
The point why I'm saying that is nothing bad about the first game, but we had to do a lot of trial and error in the first game. We came up with a plan, this is what we want to do. And then everything looked fine on paper. And then when we put it into the game and the people actually got the game, we saw, maybe it was cooler on paper. Maybe it didn't click so well. The combat is probably the single biggest feature in the game that was overworked most, while we still are very true to its core, which with the directional attacks and everything based on historical martial arts. We fine-tuned it in a way that there's, first of all, way more animations, which you might maybe not realize in the first place, but since there's much more movements and animations, everything feels more fluent. You can't tell why, but you will realize it. Everything just
it's like a cutscene in a lot of fights. Yeah,
we changed a lot the directional fighting depending on what weapon you use. So if you're using a club, a mace, an axe, or whatnot, then you have really a more straightforward movement set. You bonk the enemy on the head or whack him from the side. That's what you do with an axe. You wouldn't poke him in the eye with it, of course not, probably.
Right.
But for those who really like want to have the king of the medieval weapons, or like the deepest, then go for a double-handed bastard sword or whatever. And there you have all the movement sets and everything. But still, even those combos that were in there, because there were combos in the first game, but they were so hard to execute that barely no one used them.
Okay.
Everything just should go flow easier, be better, and be more ready for you to experience and take on. We have this, yeah.
I was saying, I was just giving it the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back sort of.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like, I didn't want to jump ahead but it's really, it's fascinating to hear you talk about that. And also it kind of goes back to the first 15, 20 minutes where this is an ever evolving game.
Absolutely.
This game, even up to 2 hours from now, as we speak, it's evolving as we speak right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the second game does this as well. We usually, the first one, the beginning of the first one is much slower than the second one. The second one is more like action, and there you go. And then we slow it down a little bit and tell you where you are and why you are there. We tried really hard to make sure that you do not have to know the first game at all in order to enjoy the second game. So there's the flashbacks and everything. But in the first game, again, to talk about the combat, so we tried to have like real medieval fighting styles, because they had these, in the Middle Ages, they had these books called Fechtbuch, and in these books they had like paintings of how the combat is supposed to look like. But even that was already considered not sports fencing, but in a way sporty fencing, because those pictures were like, okay, if someone does this, you do this. And it was like in an organized fight situation, then you can do all those tricky, cool moves, because then you kind of know what the opponent is doing. But in real combat, of course, there's no rules and nothing. You just
the
enemy as fast as you can, and just no theatrical back and forth and clinch and then throw. And well, if you get into the situation, you're out of energy like in seconds, and then the next idiot with a stick will kill you. So
mess you up, yeah.
But it's a video game what we're working on. That's the most important part, that we had to realize, hey, you know what? We are just working on a video game. We try to be very authentic. We bring in those moves from this manuscript, but they must be broad, and so that you as a player can see what's going on and you have the time to react. But it was slow and clunky in the first game, and it's now a bit faster and smoother in the second game. So if you struggle with the first game, just don't give up on the second, because I think the second game is just better in everything.
But your statement also made me think about it, and it makes me think about the entire game and sort of the narrative and everything. It's like, so that's combat. Does that sort of the general rule for all that you're doing in Kingdom Come, which is like, if you have a historical storyline, or if you have a building, or even a landscape, like eventually do you defer to the user experience over being historically, say, accurate? Like, is that a question? Is that a thing?
It's a very good question, because this is the everyday struggle pretty much we have. The game is based on real historical events. All the locations are existing. You can visit them even today. We are trying really hard to, whatever we craft and tell, that it is at least plausible and as authentic as possible. How we even have a full-time historian in the team, and she's venturing out. So she's there when we are writing the quests and building the world and whatnot. And she's then also venturing out if we need extra information about, I don't know, nobles, or how we have this monastery. So how did the daily cycles work? Can we do something in there, and so on and so on. And she's working with all the other historians and museums and universities and whatnot. And then she comes back with the information, hey, this is how it was or could have been. And then we say often, unfortunately, like, that wouldn't be fun.
Yeah, that's my point.
And then we have to come up with a good compromise. And that is usually the point. So combat, for instance, you want to be unpredictable and as fast as possible. You poke the enemy, that's it. And we say, but it's a video game. We need to have like this broad moves, and it must be a little bit like over. So we, of course, have to do shortcuts here and there. We have to oversimplify here and there. We have to gamified stuff here and there. Yet still, I strongly believe that to the best of our knowledge, we tried very hard to base everything on authentic medieval stuff. And I strongly believe that even in movies, maybe it's in the entertainment world, it's one of the closest things you can experience to see how it could have looked like in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a video game with video game logic. There's you drink a potion and you heal, of course. But
I like that because
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it in the terms of like combat. It's medieval, and eventually down the road, what it would be amazing is my brother's has a doctorate in medieval history. He teaches at CU Boulder, and so this is it's an interesting conversation to have. But I think from a video game standpoint, is you could be in combat, you can disembowel somebody, but we don't have to have them shit their pants. Jimmy, you don't have to go all
Exactly.
the,
Not
you
in
don't
that
have to
moment.
go, it don't have to be all historical side. And I think that's, but it feels that way in the game. Like you guys have accomplished that, from my experience so far.
Yeah, that was something I even wrote down of what I pulled away as like the most impressive thing I've seen in this game is how well you guys walk the line between what you're talking about, realism and
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
many games I think get lost. Like I see conversation online that will kind of label this game as a simulator, and I think that's just kind of not giving it enough credit for what it's doing. Because yes, there's so much realism. You've got to manage your hunger and your sleep, and you got to stay clean, and you got to be polite.
Yeah.
But that's all. It's all
none of these things
gamified the way
annoy
that
you. That's important.
that's
Because-
exactly it. Right.
Yeah.
So you get a reward for
Yes.
doing it. Basically, like you're going to have higher stamina. You're
Yes,
going to,
exactly.
like you said, yeah, it all exists with a purpose, not just to get in your way. And that's what I find so impressive. There's so many games that have a hard time walking that line and finding that true balance. But this game is the realism just serves nothing more for the most immersive game I've ever played.
Thank you.
While at the
for
same time,
saying
I'm
that,
just
because
having a
this
blast.
is what we are trying.
It is.
This is really the
It
goal.
really
Number one
is.
was to have this immersive game that everything
It
that
is.
you play it, that the people are living, that they have real life problems, that the conversations are not like superficial idiot, like, hey, I am the super action fighter, let's go and fight. No, that they are talking about their stories and why they do stuff, and that you as a player understand why you are doing these quests. Not like bring me 50
That's
apples.
exactly it.
Hey,
Exactly.
a huntsman tells you, hey, bring me 5 wolf pelts, but you say, but you are a huntsman, why don't you bring yourself
Yeah,
5
that's your
wolf
job.
So it's like we are trying really hard that all those people in the world seem that they care for themselves, that they do not care for you because you are not a dragonborn, whatever. You come there and
Totally.
you annoy everyone, and you kind of have to say, hey, I would chill. I would like to help or something. And it's like, okay, so this is exactly what we tried hardest to have, one of the most immersive RPGs there is. And luckily, again, knocking on wood, people say exactly that. And while everyone was in KCD1 agreeing on the fact that it was a buggy mess on release, right now everyone is unitedly agreeing that this is like a super immersive RPG, and this is exactly what we wanted to achieve first and foremost.
No, it
after-
truly is. There's all these big set pieces, but then still one of my favorite moments in the whole game is when I meet the group of humans at the tavern, go back to
Yeah.
their camp and get drunk and spend an hour and a
they're
half there
telling-
having conversations.
And
I
they're telling
get
their
deep,
backstories.
and then
Exactly.
slowly,
They're telling
Right.
your backstories, and they are saying like, hey, listen, okay, we've been there where your hometown was attacked, but this is really, sorry, bro, we are mercenaries. This is like, we don't know anyone, and it's like not a personal thing. And you as a player can then say, screw you and pay back, or you say, let's have a drink. And
or let's have a drink. Yep. And
There's like-
that's one of my favorite moments of the game because I was just so sucked into that conversation and those people. Yeah, I think that's a great example of how immersive it can get.
And Toby, after 3 weeks, what has been the industry kind of take outside of the player response, which sounds fantastic? It's long enough now to start getting some reviews in and things like that. How's that been?
overwhelmingly positive. We are, I think, for the longest time, as a developer, you have a smoking pile of crap in front of you when you're working on a video game, and you don't believe that this will ever be working, and that this will ever someone will have fun. And you need the outside voice to tell you, hey, listen, the thing is actually pretty cool, right? And we had this moment I can pinpoint it on the day, January 10th, because that was this year, because that was when the feedback came in from the reviews. We said, hey, you get the review code, and on January 10th, you can have your early preview thing. And when the feedback came in and the people were like, the heck is this game in a positive way? It's like, wait a moment. So, I was working with press that's all entire time. So I had kind of a feeling, hey, they might like it and whatnot. We did the mock reviews before. In the mock review, someone gave us, it was someone in the US, someone in France, someone in Germany, and someone in Asia somewhere, I think. And there was, the best we got there was an 8 out of 10. And if you repair it, you might get a 9. And the worst was a 6 out of 10. If you repair it, you might get a 7. I was like, oh, shoot. And then we said, okay, we need to, oh God, okay, we have to work on this. And then the early feedback came and it's like, okay, so the people, the press and content creators, they might like it. And the reviews came in a day before release, and it was like all of a sudden we had the 10 out of 10, the 9 out of 10, the IGNs, the PC games, the biggest of the biggest were like saying this is a great game. And I was like, oh, wait a moment, this is
That's
real.
amazing. That's
However,
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
However, these are all professional press, and I mean, they are, of course, they are important, but the real important people are the players, because you have very often
100%.
this different understanding of the video game between the press and the gamers, where you have like 9 out of 10, but the player score is like 5 out of 10 or whatever. And it's like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that is not a good situation. So the day of the release, the people were shitting kittens, and we are right now, I think on Steam, we have like 92% or something in the user score, which is something we never expected.
No, that's incredibly high.
We
Yeah.
knew from the press that, hey, they might like it. We might have a really good game on hand here, right? But I kid you not, not even our publisher, not even us, we're like, that it will be that good. We hit the 1 million copies in less than 24 hours.
Amazing.
We hit the 2 million
Wow.
copies in less than 14 days.
Wow.
I'm carefully want to guess that we hit the 3 millions by the end of March, and this is just like mind blowing. We had 2 millions in 1 year with KCD1, and that was already mind blowing.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
this, like, having what it's like in 1 month 3 million or so, that's like, or 2 months 3 million.
What you're saying here, probably pretty kind of breaking news, is that KDC 3 next November. Is that what you're saying here?
No,
On the
geez.
The game was great. That we are now working on patches and DLCs, and the last DLC is coming in December, so there can't be a new game by that time, of course not, because we are right now only a one-trick pony, unfortunately. The entire studio is working on one product at a time, and in the near future, and long future, but also in the near future, we want to grow further. Our plan is to get to 300 devs. Right now we are 250, and we would like to start to eventually work on several products at once. So in the near future, or next year, 2026, things might change a little bit here in the structure in the studio. But as I said, since we are right now still doing all together the DLCs and everything, don't expect another game anytime soon. Plus
I've
we
got one
might
game
not
idea
even
for you.
do KCD. We can do something else, right? So,
Maybe you can do it. Maybe you can do a video game called Shitting Kittens.
sure.
Because I've never heard. One, I want that to be a video game now. Two, I will be using that this afternoon.
There you go. There's
I've never heard it
Exploding
before.
Kittens already as a card game.
I know
think.
that.
It is.
Hey, I had one fun question. I'll let Bailey finish it up too. But the one question I had, just looking at some of your videos, some of your interviews, clearly you're not on the back end of it programming, but you live this game. And the question I had is, like, I have this in my business world. Do you dream in the real world, or do you possibly dream in the world of KDC? KCD, sorry.
Meme thing I say, but whenever someone is asking me how I'm doing or what's up or something, I'm always saying, hey, living the dream. So it is of course, video game industry is like super hard, and the glory times are around the release and everything goes well and so on, and it will go down again, and there will be other games coming, and Warhorse will be more quiet, of course, and we are trying to get a piece of the attention cake. But I personally identify extremely hard with Warhorse Studios. I feel like this is my studio. I feel like KCD is my game. Whenever someone likes it, I'm happy. When someone hates about it, or there's some controversy or whatever going on, then I take this personally, like, okay, I need to deal with this, which is a bit bad, because my girlfriend is like not the happiest about the fact that I'm like bringing work home, and it's like that I am like I am Warhorse, I am Kingdom Come, or at least I feel like that. But yeah, I don't think I'm alone here in the studio. I think that we have the great advantage since the structure is so flat. And I know this sounds super weird. And again, I guess every studio will say that, but the friendship level here in our studio is extremely high. We have family members working here, like husband, wives, and the wives are helping with being face models or whatever. And then, and my brother is coming in to do this or that. And so we are trying, it's almost like our main composer, Jan Walter, his cousin is doing the additional music. So then family business kind of. And while KCD1 sometimes felt a bit like a student project that is led by veterans, it's again now more of a passion project run by I don't know, not experts, but more experienced devs.
Yeah.
No,
Bailey, last question your way before we let him get out of here. We said 30 minutes and it's been 58, but sorry, Tobi, it's fine.
If there's one
thing great conversation
I'm guilty of, then it's like talking too much. So you have to stop.
No, this was amazing. Bailey, you get the honor.
Super quick. What's your favorite video game ever?
Wow. So currently it's really everything on the Super Nintendo, but on my top 3 of all time at the moment, probably, or the ones that I like to play over and over again, is XCOM 2. It's Crusader Kings 3. For the longest time, I'm German, so I like the strategy games. Of course I do.
Yeah.
Like planning and like thinking of being like super productive and shit. So XCOM 2, Crusader Kings 3, and Anno 1800, if you know, that's like the building Ubisoft. It's a Ubisoft game like about building islands, production chains, and there you grow this and you have to bring it there, and then you produce something new, your people like it and get to the next stage and so on. Great game. They're releasing a new game this year. Everyone should check
that out. It's the only thing that
something from the antiques from the Roman Empire time, so that would be cool.
Check that out. The only thing that's pulled me away from Kingdom Come so far has been the new Civilization game. That's been
Civ 6 is something I do enjoy quite well. However, with the Civ, me personally, I like the beginning of Civ. I don't like the end game. So I
totally agree. I've started 1,000.
Plus, honestly, I don't understand so much the winning. I know that you can have the science victory and the war victory and the culture, and I don't understand it so much. So no matter what culture I play, I always go for science victory because that's for me the most straightforward.
I do science because I like to go to space, or religion because I can not have to worry about it.
The religion thing is like for micromanaging your profit. And a little bit, again, at the beginning, cool. Late game, not.
You've got 500 pieces. Yeah.
Hey, so Tobi, the last PR point, Warhorse Studios, where can they find you? What's the plug part of it?
We try to be, again, very open and talkative on the social media. So /Warhorse Studios or Kingdom Come RPG. That is the two where you can find us. And today on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Warhorse Studios, where in 55 minutes I will be streaming.
I know. We captured. You thought you had 2 hours or an hour and a half. We kind of caught you. Hey, and the other thing, we'll let you bail out of here. This was amazing, and I think down the road, possibly even maybe another podcast, a part 2 of this with programs, so we can get a little bit all the way in the high weeds. We did the human side of it. We did this, which was amazing. But maybe we, in a few months, we jump on and kind of nerd out even higher.
Sure.
And I'll know how to fight by then. I'll be a
by
fighter.
that time you have played KCD 2 though.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And Bailey can back me up here. I think even from a cinematic perspective, like the story, once the wedding in the beginning is over and then you're attacking that castle, but you find out that things are completely different, and it's such a. And I'm nerding here, and I might be super biased, but the thing is, while the devs are working on the game day in, day out, and they will never play it, I know the game inside out as well, but I never worked on it, so I know the things only theoretically.
That's amazing.
So I'm not.
That's amazing.
I'm personally probably not playing it, but my girlfriend is playing it right now, and I'm not allowed. I'm not touch the controller, and not allowed to backseat as well. But I don't have to, or I can't even, because I don't know the details that good. But I'm watching there, and I know that there's a huge cinematic moment coming up, so I'm getting ready, and then I see the cutscenes and everything happens. Like, God damn, that's good. I like it.
It's so gripping.
I'm getting amazed. I can get amazed by my own game, so that's good.
And so,
Good
hey,
place to be.
one favor when you log off, you can do it. Just leave the Riverside open for a few moments because it'll continue to upload back into that audio, and then we'll send you all the fun cuts and things like that this afternoon once we post-edit it. Hey, Tobi, this was amazing.
Yeah,
way longer than we should have gone, but it was hard to end. It's always hard to end a good conversation. Just imagine we're in a pub in the game right
Dude,
now.
no
That's
problem
what
at
I
all.
think. Yep.
No,
all right.
If you ever come to the Czech Republic, be our guests. We do drink a lot of beer, so get ready for that. When we have the OG beer, so not the thing that you have over there, but for the next time, if you want to have a call about something more specific, music or quest design or whatever, then I can of course either bring someone in or exchange myself for someone who's into.
I love it. And that might help because this is going to format into our summer magazine. We promote the podcast, and this just becomes a small little summary of this podcast. And maybe if we get one more in, that gives a little more depth to that print article.
Sure.
But this was amazing. We'll let you boogie out of here so you can go keep talking.
Yeah.
I will
Thanks, brother.
get a drink and then ready for the stream.
That's a good
Thanks,
night.
Tobi. We'll
Thanks,
talk to you
Tobi.
soon.
Take care,
Yep.
gentlemen.
Have a good one,
It
man.
was a pleasure.
See you, brother.
See ya.
Yep. Bailey, what do you think?
Oh, that was so fun. What a good guy.
That was incredible.
Yeah, he's so great.
What a good dude. And just, again, we're an hour and 3 minutes in, so there will be no movie or sports talk today. Right
I could have talked to him for another hour easy.
Yeah, well, I think we will. Like I said, that's that intro conversation, and then we'll go from there. So post edit, the exit music will be playing right now. This was incredible. Episode 3 was. I don't want to downplay Connor, but this is, I think, a really good evolution of the podcast. I think we can have more of these guys on.
Man, so exciting.
And now I know I got to get a PS5 because I can't play 2 on my Switch.
Giving you crap for it, yeah. You'll like it. No, like you said, that was the. Part of the intention was make it more accessible.
The intention of this whole podcast is like, that's not me. Like I'm into it. I do those ones, but I think that's the part I love about it is here's the reality of it. We do this podcast and I'm playing it on my Switch, and now I'm so compelled by that narrative that I'm willing to invest in a platform to get that game.
Yep.
And that's the whole point.
Exactly what they wanted. Exactly.
That's exactly what they want. All right, we'll roll out of here, Bailey. I'll see you next time.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, buddy. See ya.
Bye.